Great, thank you, Emily. And for anyone who's interested, there's loads more figures and numbers inside the report. Please do leaf through it, look at it online and see it. But I just wanted, Richard, to start with you. There's lots of data out there. We've gathered some of it together. There's more. A lot of those trends are known to individuals. I don't think there's any data we've used where the department has gone, oh my goodness, I didn't realise we were doing that. We pulled it together, though, in the conclusions to say, look, systematically, you've got to look at these things across services, and you've got to have a consistent frame for thinking about, well, where are the pressures emerging? How are you going to manage them? And actually, we also went further than that. We said, look, this needs to be transparent. There needs to be something in this system that stops you getting into that wishful thinking cycle. I was just wondering, from your experience inside government, what is it that leads you to think that these are really important things that we've got to do? Why this? How would this help the decision making for people actually inside the machine, as it were?
Well, heaven forbid that there'd ever be any wishful thinking in spending reviews. I don't think any of us involved in those. I'm sure I've never seen that at all in our careers. Spending reviews start off as quite an analytical, data-driven, evidence-based approach. So when you kick off a spending review, that's actually where you are. It's the type of stuff that's in this report is what you're all focused on in individual departments. Question about whether we do that consistently in a similar way across government, but that's what departments do. But what happens as the process goes on? And I think there's a line in the report that rings very, very true to me that says that the spending reviews end up being quite tactical in the short term and sort of infused with optimism bias in the long term. And that's because you're starting from a position of effectively spending reviews like a budget setting process. You're trying to match the money to the demand and the quality standards that government set. And at one level, that's a very simple budget setting process that we all do in every bit of our work. But the challenge is always that you want to minimise the money bit and you want to maximise the quality bit. And as you work your way through the process, what then happens is you focus on how do you do that. And the thing that sort of brings those two together is levels of efficiency or productivity in the system. How much can you hold down prices? How much can you improve productivity in the system? And again, you start off with quite a rational approach to this. And like most things, you generally start off with what are the things we've done in the past? What do we think they can deliver? What's the evidence for the future is basically better evidence comes to the past. You start off like that. As you get closer and closer to a settlement date, and the political demands for often improvements in quality standards, actually not maintaining quality standards, improvement in quality standards, and a reduction in the resource availability, the gap between those two things starts to widen and widen and widen. And the danger at that point, and I think most of us have seen it in various SR settlements, is you end up with a bit of a spreadsheet exercise. You start to look at, we'll vary this assumption by a little bit, and it's usually only a little bit to start off with. And we can find ways of justifying that, because we can say, if we look across our entire public services, every individual organisation is not as efficient as the one next to it. So what would it be like if everyone was? And you start to build that sort of assumption in. Now, I've never come across anything in either public or private sector, actually, where every unit is as efficient as each other. But they start to get built in. And they build on top of each other, on top of each other. Until you get to a point where the level of optimism is unsustainable in the long term. You can probably get through a year or two of that. There are enough things you've got in your system to get through a year or two, but not enough for the longer term. Why would it be have been good to have a more consistent, challenge data-driven approach in my old job? Well, in part of it, you would actually hate it. So you start off from the point of view, I hate people challenging my assumptions, I hate people telling me things are wrong. But actually, it's no good for anyone to move to this sort of crisis response, to have short-term injection of cash or short-term changes in standards. If you're going to deliver sustainable, efficient, high-quality public services, one of the central things you need, apart from a reasonable amount of money start is a degree of certainty over a time period. Yeah, the only way you will deliver significant efficiency savings is to plan those and deliver them over a number of years. You can't just snap your fingers and things will happen. So I think that challenge to actually force us into something where we then held to a consistent set of plans actually would be good for us. I think particularly going into this next phase we're in now, as the report says, if you look back over the first 3 or 4 years of the last SR, actually it was primarily about belt tightening. It was about the stuff that you could do at the centre of government yourself, first of all. So you could control pay, you could slash sort of administration cost of the system, you could reallocate money to frontline services. They were all within control of someone like me or the board at a government department. You could do that stuff. And then the rest of it you could push down to a local service delivery organisation and say, you've got a hard budget, live within that. And actually, as they tighten the belt, you could squeeze out efficiency savings. But we sort of run out of most of that now. You need something bigger and more transformative. And to do that, you need a degree of time and certainty of planning. I think that's the thing that would be a real help at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Richard.